So this is a story from r/no sleep by the Reddit user extra underscore evening 9354. It was posted 6 hours ago, and the title goes Tales from a Haunted House, from a haunted town's blasted sheriff. And it reads, let me get one thing out of the way. I didn't start drinking because of the hauntings. I was already halfway to pickled before, and the spirits around here decided I was their unofficial customer service desk. See, when you're the only sheriff for miles, everything that goes bump in the night ends up dumped in your lap. Flickering lights in the cemetery? My problem. Screaming coming from the old mill? My problem. Kid swears there's a floating man in her closet? Definitely my problem. Because apparently no one else around here wants to admit that our town is wrong. And before anyone asks, no, I don't arrest ghosts. Can't cuff smoke. Can't threaten something that phases through your cruiser door. Mostly I just show up and mutter not again and try to not to look at like I'm not about to soil myself, while whatever it is sizes me up. But the thing is, even when I leave, it never really stays behind. So yeah, I am the sheriff, and these are the stories I finally started writing down, mostly because I ran out of whiskey and I need something to do until the store opens in the morning. The first time I realized this town was fucked was the Tuesday morning, which somehow makes it worse. Bad things belong to nighttime, or thunderstorms, or at least the weekends. Tuesday morning is for coffee and pretending like I'm about to fill out our last month's paperwork. Instead, dispatch calls and says, there's a noise complaint that sounds a little weird. That's a dispatcher speak for a sheriff. It's your turn to traumatize yourself again. So I drive over to the rundown apartment block, squeezed behind a half-functioning gas station, the kind of place where you're never sure if the walls are water damage or just stained by life. When I get there, he opened the door like he'd been pacing behind it for hours, eyes wide, hair sticking up like he'd been electrocuted by his own anxiety. Sheriff, thank God. Please come in. I mean, you called, I said. It would have been rude if I didn't. He stepped aside, wringing his hands like he wasn't sure if he should offer me coffee or a will to sign. I am not crazy, just so you know that up front. Good start, I said. Everybody who says that always turns out completely sane. Never once gone wrong. He didn't laugh. I didn't expect him to. He pointed toward the hallway. It started last night, thumping in the back room like footsteps, slow ones. Footsteps in the middle of the night, ghost rush hour. He frowned. I'm serious. So am I. That's when everything weird happens. I brushed past him and started down the hall, slow enough that he could keep up. All right, tell me exactly what you heard. Just walking, and the door that keeps the room keeps opening. I know I closed it. I heard the latch catch. I couldn't be a draft. Could be a draft, I said. No, he said, sharp enough to echo. I checked the windows, everything's shut. Okay, I said. Faulty hinges, then. Happens. It doesn't explain the whispering. I stopped mid-step. Whispering? Yes. Like two people talking, but no words, I know. He swallowed and lowered his voice. I thought maybe it was the neighbors, but they're out of town. All right, I said, trying to sound like a man who definitely hadn't dealt with far worse. So you didn't recognize the language? No, it didn't even sound like a language, more like, he hesitated, something trying to figure out how to talk. I pinched the bridge of my nose. That's great. Love that for us. He hovered behind me. You're not taking me seriously. I am, I said. It's just the last time someone told me the air was talking to them, it turned out they were sleeping next to a raccoon in the vents. There are no raccoons here, he said. Glad you checked. Saves me time. We reached the back room door. He nudged it with 2 fingers like it might bite him. It opened on its own with 5 times last night. Locked? Yes, and before you ask, I wasn't sleepwalking. I don't do that. Okay, I said. I wasn't going to accuse you, but if you want me to put it in the report, I can. Makes you sound more interesting. He let out a shaky laugh. Please don't. Fair enough. I tried the handle. It didn't move. Solid lock. All right, I'll open it. If something jumps out, try not to scream louder than me. He gave me a look that said he was only 80% sure I was joking. I opened the door. Nothing happened. No draft, no movement, just the heavy stillness old houses get when they're holding their breath. He whispered, "See, it wasn't like this before." "Yeah," I said. "Spooky silence is a new feature." He lowered it behind me again. "So, what does this mean?" "It means," I said, stepping in and looking around, "that I'll check everything first. Locks, windows, floorboards, and if nothing explains it, I'll chalk it up to the usual." "The usual?" "Yeah, you know." I nudged a wrapped floorboard with my boot. "Weird house noises, ghost, existential dread. Same category on the paperwork. And if something actually is here, then we escalate to phase 2. "There's a phase 2? "Oh, yeah," I said. "Phase 2 is where I call someone who gets paid more than me to deal with things that whisper in unknown languages." He exhaled shakenly. "I'm charging the county if something drags me into a wall." "That's fine," I said. "But if something drags me into a wall, you're paying for medical bills." He points to me at apartment 3B. Says the tenant left in a hurry. He means abandoned or fled. Ran so fast he probably didn't even lock the door. I go up. The door isn't just unlocked. It's opened. I crack, like someone couldn't be bothered to shut it fully. I announce myself, push it open, and step inside. The air hits me first. Thick, heavy, wet, like breathing through damp wool. The lights flicker even though no one touched the switch. Apartment's empty, but in a way that feels wrong. Not lived in, empty, stripped empty. One mattress leaning against the wall, no clothes, no dishes, a single shot in the middle of the living room, pointed towards the bathroom like someone lost it while running. I hear the dragging sound before I even reach the hallway. Wet, slow, deliberate. Like something pulling a soaked tarp across a tile. I draw my flashlight, announce myself again, and because I really should have become a plumber instead of a sheriff, I push open the bathroom door. There's a man standing in the shower with his back to me. He's not doing anything, not washing, not shifting his weight, not even pretending he belongs there. He's just planted in the middle of the tub like someone dropped him and forgot about him. His skin has that drained over laundered look bodies get after being pulled out of a river. Pale enough that the overhead lights make him seem less like a person and more like the idea of one. I ask if he's okay. It comes out steady, the same tone I use for traffic stops and drunk uncles at Thanksgiving, but the air hits the back of my neck in a way that tells me I should probably wish I'd brought backup. He doesn't react, doesn't turn, doesn't even hitch a breath. The closer I get, the colder the room gets. An old rotting kind of cold that doesn't just sit in the tiles but sinks under your skin, settles against your bones and starts taking inventory of you. It's the kind of cold that makes you feel like something small and patient is listening for your next move. "Sir," I say, because that's what the handbook insists I say when dealing with unresponsive individuals, "I'm going to need you to turn around." What he does isn't turning. He twitches. A single sharp convulsion like someone pulled a wire inside of him, and then the motion travels through his whole body, a ripple and shudder. Nothing natural. Nothing that belongs in a human frame. It's the kind of movement that makes you realize there's a wrong way for bones to shift, even if you've never seen it before. A noise crawls out of his throat, wet, thick. Not a word, not a breath, more like he's trying to remember how to be a person and failing the test. I take a step forward, more out of the training than bravery. The tile clicks under my boot and it's like the sound gives whatever inside him an instruction. His knees buckle. No flinch, no brace, no instinct to save himself. He just drops, straight down like somebody cut the strings. And the whole time, the only thing I can think is that nothing about the way he fell looked accidental. It looked practiced, like he'd done it before. By the time the paramedics arrive, I've already given them the rundown and stepped out of the bathroom. They take one look at the guy in the tub and go quiet. In that professional way, that means they don't have a box for this on their forms either. I let them work. I've seen enough. I get the landlord to sign the incident report. He's shaking so hard the pen taps the paper like Morse code, and I give him the usual speech about staying somewhere else for the night, locking his door, maybe getting a hobby that doesn't involve living next to strange apparitions. He nods through all of it like he's signing a treaty he's never agreed to draft. I step outside into the thick evening air, and for a second, the silence feels wrong. Not dangerous, just expectant. Like the house is waiting to see if I'll come back. I won't even think about it. I get into my cruiser, shut the door, and let an engine hum. Feel the space in my head where panic could normally go for the other people. I check the mirrors out of habit, and the rearview stares back at me with too much empty road. I tilt it down away from the backseat. I don't need the universe talking taking that as an invitation. The radio chirps, as if I need backup, or if I'm returning to the station. I say I'm fine. I always say I'm fine. It's a muscle memory at this point, like buckling my seatbelt or ignoring the shadows that move where the shadows shouldn't. On the drive home, every streetlight feels a little too dim, a little too far apart. My headlights carve out of the road in slices, and the dead air between them. I keep thinking I see someone standing in the next of a. Sorry. I keep thinking I see someone standing in the next patch of dark. Never do. Most likely never will, but I keep the mirror angled down anyway. No sense checking if someone decides to hitch a ride. Not tonight. Not after seeing a man fall like a puppet that I remember it didn't have strings. I pull into my driveway, kill the engine, and wait a moment before getting out, letting the quiet settle. My house looks the same way as always, dark, a little lopsided, and blessedly empty. I step inside, lock the door behind me, and tell myself I'll sleep just fine. I won't, but I'll try. The end. It's a pretty good story. I like stories that have humor, because I think more people would try to lighten the situation by being humorous in a situation like that than be scared to death. Obviously, you'd be scared, but I would try to lighten the mood too. That's the end. I'm gonna be reading more stories on this guy. That's a really nice story. Posted 6 hours ago. Yeah. I just want to know. Let me. You guys let me know if you want longer stories, shorter stories. Either way, I'm gonna be making my stories in the closet. I don't care. That's the end. Have a good night and a good Thanksgiving.